Yeah. Like it reminds me of in general seeing leadership in the past. It was very hierarchical, and there was someone who's very smart who knows everything on the top, and someone who's less smart or maybe supposed to be less in control. And right now it's more like flat because you want to give the control to the people and to enable these like skills, experiences, what's going on in their whole being that they could offer the system, and not only being a very small cog in this very big machine, and then you're getting less from a potentially very very big opportunity in each employee.
Yeah, yeah, and the trick is going to be a little like what fosters creativity. It's often not the complete white canvas, right? Where there are no rules and everything is just free and you do what you want. I think many people, they panic a little bit. They get paralyzed. So what you need is that combination of freedom, but still a lot of coaching and guidance and direction setting. And that's the fine balance. How do you both let go of control while at the same time really support and nurture and fertilize the things that needs to grow from it. And I guess it's a little what also being talked about with the new generations, the millennials and Gen Zs, that needs exactly this balance of freedom to feel like they have, a mission that they're on and they have, personal impact with what they do, but at the same time, a lot of coaching and guidance in making sure that they build the right skills, that they understand how to make decisions, in the difficult junctions that they will face.
I would just guess that the C level, if they're experienced managers growing from this specific company, finds it a bit hard to see it differently because they grew in this organization doing things in a very specific way. And now you're telling them, these employees are different, the way you need to handle it, the technology, the world is moving, and now you need to see it differently. And many of the things you learned on the way, maybe in like 10 years, 15 years in the company, maybe you should put a bit aside and unlearn some of it.
And that's why it's so challenging to be an entrepreneur, right? And that is why basically you need to become a diplomatic rebel, because you both need to be the one holding up the North Star, leading the way for the change, but at the same time you need to be equally well in how to get people on board, how to have enough empathy to understand where is that resistance coming from, whether it's known or sort of more subconscious, and how can you build pathways for the big organization to move towards this new way of working, and this transformation. And that's the challenge in a nutshell also for the entrepreneur, balancing those two forces, changing, disrupting, caring enough, onboarding people.
So, when you're doing innovation, do you help with open innovation, working with startups too?
Absolutely. So I think that's part of where companies are moving towards, right? Realizing that if they have to do everything themselves, they won't have enough, flexibility and adaptability, or even resources and competences. So in order to be successful in the future, they have to open up the company more to collaborating with other partners, collaborating with individuals, collaborating with the customers, with the users, and potentially even collaborating with competitors. And so that's sort of the business ecosystem mindset, right? Of saying, how can we open up our company to really multiply our powers by being able to pull it from multiple different sources, and not only within our own legal boundaries or the silos within the company. And so that's very interesting, and it points in the direction of that, the future workforce maybe being less tied, in the very sort of very binary way of either you are owned by one company and literally you are not allowed to do anything else but work here, or you don't exist to the company and you can't literally not even enter the premises without a security escort, right? And this very binary way of thinking about the workforce might need to change. So instead, you're looking at your talent as being someone you're collaborating with. And sometimes they're on a project with you, other times they're with another project that's maybe further out in the ecosystem, another company, but someone you're collaborating with. And how do you create these both internal talent marketplaces, but potentially also the external talent marketplaces where maybe you're exchanging talents with other companies that are in your ecosystem quite voluntarily, where now there's a lot of fear about losing your talents. And actually, I think that's often the reason why you lose them, because they sort of get tied down too much instead of maybe letting go and then saying, how can we create the best possible path for all our employees across a much broader ecosystem. And to your question about, collaborating with startups, that is, an absolute great source for companies, and saying if we are exploring a new territory and we are lacking the basic knowledge about this area and the talents and competencies and maybe also access to the right technologies to get into this, then collaborating with startups that are exactly exploring this in a very rapid, lean way is an excellent way of trying to then shortcut that knowledge gap. But it demands, a different approach. You cannot, as a big corporate, put down on a small startup the same, processes and governance and compliance rules as you would have in the big system. That's going to kill it. And there's loads of examples of that, both in collaboration, but also through with acquisition and investment, that these small startups are being suffocated by the large corporate. So that's another thing to learn, how to then have multiple different ways of collaborating with different partners and individuals based on who they are, the size they have, and what is needed in this particular context.